joined the world of development finance. And my former colleague said to me, look, Leila, you're moving from making money to doing goods only. And I said, well, yes, a bit of the two, but not only that. Today at the EIB, what I would like to say is that we multiply the impact of every euro to save lives. And that, I believe, is the true profitability. We see equitable healthcare as a strategic investment, so not only a moral obligation. Why? Healthy population stimulate the economy, improve educational outcomes, and contribute to the resilience of societies. And that's why over the past 6 years, the European Investment Bank, the EIB, has invested more than 23 billion euro in healthcare, 4 of which outside the European Union and mainly in Africa. And this spans from building hospitals, training healthcare staff, distributing vaccines, and adopting medical technologies. And what we do this through a range of financial products, long-term loans, risk debt, project financing, guarantees, etc. And by providing also technical assistance and advisory. And a few months ago, I was saying a bit the same thing. For example, during one of our regular engagements with the governments, and I met an African Minister of Health, I will not say which country, and he said, Leila, we don't need charity, we need partners who believe in our ability to build sustainable solutions. And I replied that, well, you're right, and this is currently our focus at the EIB. And to answer the last part of your question on the role of IFIs, which are international financial institutions, that role is changing completely. We are no longer simply lenders. We try to be a catalyst of innovation now. We have no choice. We take a risk that the private sector cannot take. We try to build bridges between sectors and to turn ideas into reality. And you mentioned today global climate. And yes, healthcare challenges in today's global climate are too complex just for one type of actor. So the international financial institution and the EIB in particular are transforming themselves. So we are trying to transform to become drivers to harmonize instruments. For the EIB, I will give you 2 examples of innovation in that space. One is our Health Impact Investment Platform, which is HIIP. We partnered with WHO on this one. And instead of simply lending, as we would traditionally do, we combine financing and technical assistance to transform profoundly, deeply primary healthcare systems across several geographies. A second example at the heart of the European Union Global Gateway Strategy is our 750 million euros Human Development Accelerator Program, which is also called HDX. We work with the Gates Foundation and the European Commission on that one, and we are an entire African pharmaceutical ecosystem, from research labs to local factories. So we just don't pay check to say, okay, take the money. We really try to see how to reinvent in order to work on ecosystem. And to conclude, having said all that I said, we need also to be clear and realistic. Despite these ongoing challenges and innovation, it is clear that we need to do much more. And that's why programs like Rays of Hope seem so promising, with the agency expertise in nuclear medicine, coupled with IFI potential financial capacity and governance. It can be a very good model for intelligent partnership.
Thank you so much, Leila. Several things you said really struck a chord, but I think what you said is really multiply the impact of every euro. And I think that's what we're really trying to do today, especially through the creation of partnerships. So now I'm going to turn to another of our private sector partners, Siemens. And you heard the German ambassador mention Siemens Healthineers today. I'm really glad that we could welcome Mr. Kevin Masudi, who's the Vice President and Head of Public Sector Engagement for Middle East and Africa of Siemens Healthineers, to our panel today. So Kevin, IAEA and Siemens have recently rolled out some interesting joint work in Kenya. Why was this important for Siemens, and how do you view work together through Rays of Hope going forward?
Let's see how this goes. Thank you very much, Lisa. I think I'll maybe approach this a little bit differently in that I will not necessarily speak about Siemens. I think these community gatherings are an opportunity for us to learn about what's happening, to understand what's happened, to get best practice and continue to improve in what we're doing. So with that, I think I'll, again, take a slightly different approach and discuss the situation in Kenya a little bit. So first and foremost, I want to commend kind of the government of Kenya on their approach to cancer care. They did what Honorable Deputy Minister Ukeditse mentioned earlier in his remarks, which is they went through a thorough planning and design process. They put real thinking into the strategy of how to develop cancer care in Kenya. And they invested themselves in a very purposeful way to establish cancer care in the capital in Nairobi. And once the capacity was there in the capital and we moved to the next major cities, they then decided to expand the cancer care services to more semi-urban areas and put together a clear plan for improving access to care into the counties. It's through this initiative that they then invested as a government into new cancer centers in the different counties, at the same time considering future planning. So they future-proofed essentially their investments very practically, for example, by having 2 bunkers in every county center that was being set up, even though they were only equipping the centers with 1 machine. And this is, of course, where we come to the expansion and partnership with the Rays of Hope initiative, because as you would have heard earlier from the DG and also from PS Oluga, they are imminently going to be launching 2 new linear accelerators in Kenya in 2 of these county centers. So I think it's been a great learning experience, a positive takeaway that all of us can take, which is if you plan properly and you try to follow your plan, you can scale up access to care from urban areas and urban settings to more rural settings or semi-urban settings. At the same time, I think, again, these are the kind of platforms for us to transparently also discuss some of the challenges that we have. And I know some of our colleagues from Kenya are here, and they'll and well, I mean, this is very timely. They will remember that it's been a very bumpy road. And why? Because it's not as straightforward as just getting equipment and installing it. What we need to do when we look at cancer care programs, and especially expanding into less urban areas, are all of the elements around it for an integrated cancer care solution. One being, of course, electricity, right? So do you have UPSs? Do we have chillers? Are the bunkers ready? How is the infrastructure? How is the capacity building in the remote centers? So I think this is one of the maybe takeaways that I wanted to share with the rest of the group here in developing your cancer care programs. Whilst you strategically develop them in the kind of short to medium to long term, as you think of expanding to the more semi-urban and rural areas, please make sure never to neglect what may seem to be small things, because those small things can slow down the entire initiative and can delay the access of care to the patients that need it most.
Thank you so much. And I think we have learned that if we keep the microphones a little bit elevated, the feedback will be limited. But I think, Kevin, you've talked about what many have been alluding to, again, putting the member state in the driver's seat and providing as a group of partners the tools and the support for that. So I'd like to close out this portion of our panel with the newcomer to the Rays of Hope initiative, Fujifilm. And again, you heard this morning the ambassador from Japan mentioned that Mr. Atsuka was going to be speaking today. Mr. Atsuka is the head of global marketing and global health, modality solution division, medical systems business division. And I want to thank you so much for being here today. So Takuma, could you tell us how you see a company like Fujifilm supporting the IAEA's Rays of Hope initiative?
Hope my mic works quite well. Well, thank you very much for inviting us to be part of this collaboration. So I'm Takuma from Fujifilm. Then, as you may know, Fujifilm, of course, we started our business first from the film business. Then recently, or maybe in your, let's say, our older generation, our focus was more on, let's say, consumable product, as I said, digital camera or film. But as company, recently, we've been focusing more on the healthcare segment. Then, especially in terms of the cancer screening, we have multiple modalities, starting from CT and then the mammography, and also endoscopy. Endoscopy is not related to radiology, but also we have that kind of product. Then especially today, I want to touch upon a little bit about our mammography. So we as Fujifilm, we've been strongly focusing on mammography business, especially in this Middle East and Africa. I was in Dubai almost 8 years ago, and that's when I started to look at this area, Middle East and Africa. Then the first thing I wanted to change was kind of a level of the, let's say, the skill in healthcare professionals. That means, for example, even if we provide a good product, but at the end of the day, if technologists or radiologists, if they are not trained well, then what's the point to have that kind of high quality product? That's why, for example, when I started the business in Dubai, we set up a training center in Dubai, and we expand the training center in South Africa, Egypt, Morocco. Then also recently, when it comes to mammography, for example, how to read the image. For this purpose, we asked a Japanese doctor or European doctor or US doctor to come and then attend our workshop. Then that's when I suddenly, I had a good chance to talk to IAEA team about this kind of collaboration. Then when I talked about this kind of training, then the IAEA team also mentioned, if you're doing that kind of training, why don't we do it together? Then that's when I also started to think, because one company can do this much, but if we are doing with our partner, I think we can do much more things. So that's why I really think this is a great initiative, a Rays of Hope. Then that's when I also started to think, as a company, as Fujifilm, we want to be a part of this collaboration. Then when it comes to mammography, I think G Healthcare also mentioned, we've been also trying to developing the AI to scale up the project, like screening. So recently in the, let's say, market, there are a lot of AI cards to support radiologists. But as Fujifilm, we are also having different approach. So not just for radiologists, but also radiographer. Because at the end of the day, in order to scale up the screening project, not just for radiologists, but also radiographer, we need to train them quite well. That's why our AI currently, we just developed recently, was mainly focusing on radiographer, how to skill up their knowledge. So by this way, I think, again, we are very happy to be here as a kind of a new partner. So we are really looking forward to working with all of these partners, and then also a private sector, and then the public sector, and then the government sector, to try to expand this collaboration more and more. Yeah, thank you so much.
Great, thank you so much, Takuma. I think it's great to hear again a perspective of a new partner, maybe hearing some of these things for the first time. I would like to turn to the participants in the audience now. You've sat through many discussions in the morning and also on this panel. So I could entertain maybe one or two questions from the audience if there's a burning topic that someone wants to bring to the floor for the Partnerships for Hope session. Okay, while you think of it, I'll pose one here and see if there's anyone who would like to think of it while our audience members consider. So really, how can the UN, we've talked about this, the UN, international financial institutions, the private sector, come together maybe in sort of a roundtable or, working jointly, not all these bilateral relationships, to bring more cancer care to the countries that we've heard from today and some of those who aren't represented. Is there anyone go ahead, Chris.
That's going nowhere near me.
Okay.
So I'll try that. Lisa, what a great question. I think that when we saw Director General Grossi's announcement recently around the World Bank, I think where the UN agencies in general and others can do more is to work with other financial institutions and like EIB, make that euro or that dollar equal 1 + 1 = 3. Because I think, most of us manufacturers, I think we have a vested interest in that, but we also have our own financial capability to support those programs. So the ability to support oncology programs in developing markets, I think is passionate and critical to all of us. What we can all do more of is to try and make that 1 + 1 = 3. When we can do that, we start to really move cancer care ahead, particularly in the low middle income countries.
Great, thanks, Chris. Thank you, Chris. Anyone else on the panel want to chime in on that? Kevin, sure.
Sure, thanks. I just wanted to add one other comment to that, and that's that I think all of us are aware of the changing financial landscape, let's say, in our world. And I think let's try and look at the silver lining, right? And I think the silver lining is that it forces us to be more collaborative and to have a more sustainable perspective in terms of how we can affect change. And I think it really does require us to then sit around the table and say, well, what are the areas wherein we can do this? Because, the 1 + 1 = 3, well, one of the ones is gone, right? So now we have to find another one to even replace the first one. So I think my point is ultimately the landscape is changing quickly. And I think, like Chris said, a lot of stakeholders are willing to come to the table to see how we can collaborate. Both manufacturers, also other third parties, governments are also sharing a willingness for private-public partnerships. And I think we should all, as openly and transparently as possible, start to accelerate that process for sustainability in low and middle-income countries.
Thanks, Kevin. Has anyone in the audience thought of something they'd like to ask? Okay, I'm going to pull a thread that was raised, and maybe Atsuka, you want to chime in here, because many of you talked about innovations, in technology and utilization. Is there any way that, again, we can work together to support expanded access through some of these innovations coming online?
I think most of us already talked, but I think most important point is how to make a partnership together, between public and private, and also government sector, because in a way, for example, GE, Siemens, we are competitors in a way, but today we are in the same stage talking about the same thing, how to tackle the same difficulty, or how to expand cancer care for all the people in Africa. So for example, and also in terms of Japan, we are having the TICAD 9, that is a Tokyo International Conference on African Development in this August. So we are also inviting many, let's say, minister and then the government people to come to Japan and then explain what as private company can do, and also from the government point of view, which direction we are going forward. So in this sense, for example, that's mainly for the Japanese company, but for example, again, we are together with all the multinational companies. So how to collaborate, and then as Kevin said, how to discuss honestly with genuinity. That's, I think, very important, because without being honest, and then I think we cannot make a good conclusion. So as I said, we are one family to fight against cancer. That's why, as family, what we can do, what we should do, what we can do, this is something we should discuss honestly. I think that's quite important.
Thank you so much. Last call from the audience. I just want to mention that both Leila and Ajay mentioned, from the international financial institutions, bankable project documents, the investments, the opportunity for grants, but also concessional loans. At 4:00, we are going to have a session on financing for care, and I think you'll hear more about what some of the countries are doing. You mentioned Benin. supporting through their own resource mobilization the ability to expand access. And so I just give a little shout out to the session at 4 o'clock. And I think now what we can do is we can turn to another round of interventions from the panelists. And I'm going to start with Luca. So how do you think we can leverage the partnerships we've been discussing today to scale up and further support countries in improving access to cancer care?
Again, a very good questions. And well, for Belgium, I think the answer, at least partially, is in playing to the strengths of each sector. And so we've already heard a little bit about what type of partnerships could help in the global fight against cancer, and that we're all one family with the same goal. Well, Belgium, for example, has now become a country with extensive expertise in cancer research and cancer care, and part of that is through a partnership between the Belgian Institute of Radio Elements and the Belgian Nuclear Research Center. It has meant that we are now one of two major producers of radionuclides for radiopharmaceuticals worldwide that are used in diagnosis and therapy and save millions of lives every year. And it has now led also into Belgium actively developing its capabilities in what is called this radioligand therapy to become a leader in innovative cancer treatment. An action plan has been presented in June 2024. And this RLT combines, in fact, a molecule that recognizes a cancer cell with a radioactive substance that then damages or destroys them, minimizing impact on patients, improving their quality of life, and is now being used for the treatment of advanced cancers in Belgium. Why do I say all this? It's a bit of a long-winded explanation, but to say basically that the combination of public funds, long-term donor and government commitments, combined with innovation, with advanced technologies from a thriving private sector, that in fact could lead to this hoped-for scale-up that we've been talking about. And yet a bold and visionary initiative such as Rays of Hope can help to rally all relevant actors to such a worthy cause. It's why Belgium has been a proud supporter of this program from the start.
Great. Thank you so much, Luca. Okay, I'm going to mix it up a little bit on our last interventions. I'm going to turn to Leila from European Investment Bank. So Leila, what do you think are some of the best practices that you see in integrating the work of a diverse group of actors like government, implementing agencies, the private sector, IFIs, that could be relevant for Rays of Hope?
We need energy, and we also invest in energy. This is important for health investment as well, so it's also a top priority. But yes, seriously, to answer your question, I'll be quite pragmatic. But first, to say that as IFI, at the beginning, we were seen as people that were lending to government. We still do, but we try really now to think differently, because we keep seeing that we need to do, again, more with less public resources. This is a bit the message from today. And then to do so, we will try to invest and support and finance projects that no one else will do. Because those are important, as long as they have transformational impact. And people don't do that because the projects are seen as too long, too risky, in conflict areas, etc. And no one wants to put money into that. And we try to build incentives to do so, to finance, to use public money, to guarantee for the private sector. And to answer directly your question, what can work? And what we have seen can be replicated more and more in this transformation that we operate is first alignment. And alignment, all the panelists have said so. We need to work together, and to do so, we need to sit together and try to see what is the common goal. And it leads to the second point, which is comparative advantages or comparative expertise. And this is it. We are financier. We will provide a montage that will a financial instrument that will ensure that we can use €1 of philanthropy, €1 of subvention from taxpayers of some countries, but also money that we can raise in big volumes from the capital markets, because this is outside the governments and we need to do more. And then we blend all of it and we mix with expertise from my colleagues from the private sector or from organizations like yours. this is a bit it, and the third part is amplification, because all those two ingredients that I mentioned are meant to amplify the impact. This is my wrap-up.
Great, thank you so much, Leila. I'm going to turn to you, Takuma. What can companies like Fujifilm, how can they have an impact on the effort to expand access to cancer care in low and middle income countries?
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. And then as Fujifilm, we are having the screening center by our own, for example, in Japan, in India, that it's mainly for the cancer screening and also the healthcare checkup. So what we are thinking now is to implement this kind of screening center in low and middle income countries as well. But of course, as I said, as one company, Fujifilm, what we can do is quite limited. That's why maybe we need to get some support from some government and also like a bank or like international procurement agency or the other country or like even the other private sectors. So in order to have like the same, let's say, the purpose or goal to fight against cancer, then if there is anything we can support Fujifilm, as I said, like in a screening center setup in like developing countries, I think that's something we want to achieve together with all the, let's say, stakeholders together here in the stage. So that's something we want to explore more and more in the future. Yeah. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you so much. Chris, we've heard several mention public-private partnerships or private-public partnerships. I think it depends on what chair you sit in. So what do you really see as the future of these types of partnerships for cancer care under Rays of Hope?
Commercially more. I think that's very important for any commercial company. As a private company, we have to make money just to be able to continue working and support the governments and support the IAEA. So I think more of those, but they've got to be done in the right way and in the right partnership. As Kevin used a Kenyan example, I'll use a Kenyan example. I think you've got to be in region and you've got to be able to know the region, understand the region, and not just support something from a head office somewhere. G Healthcare is in 27 countries in Africa. We work in all 63 low middle income countries. And I think public-private partnership can be a mix of IFIs, can be a mix with IAEA. We'd love to see more of that innovative type thinking and less of the standard type tender process. With a standard tender process, you can get results. I think with a partnership approach, which we see from the IAEA and hopefully others, you can start to see real development and real plans. You can take our great knowledge, Siemens, Fujifilm, and then you can also take all of the investors and you can really make that work for the 25 million patients that won't survive cancer in the next handful of years. And that's got to be our mission.
Great, thank you, Chris. And Kevin, I turn to you for the final panelist word.
Thank you very much, Lisa. Well, I mean, I don't want to continue repeating what everyone said, but ultimately, really, I urge everybody to put us, I mean, those who have heard me speak will hear me, apologies, I say this all the time, but we need to find a way to put aside some of our individual ambitions and try to see how we can collaborate to be able to address the burden that's not just on this continent, but across the globe. I love what Takuma-san mentioned earlier, the word he said, which is honesty. I think that is a prerequisite for us to truly be able to collaborate together. And I think there are areas that we can collaborate on to make a real difference, right? Things that we can look at, such as capacity building and training, bringing cancer care to the top of the agenda of most of our ministries, our governments, creating that urgency. And now with the new WHO resolution on diagnostics, I think we do have an opportunity for all of us to kind of collaborate around that and find ways to have an impact that is not only about competition, right, but rather about collaboration. And maybe with that, I'll try and end on a bit of a hopeful note, and that is that, you know, as we look to support as Siemens Healthineers through different means and training, capacity building, technologies, etc., I'm extremely proud to be able to share that Siemens Healthineers in Varian is going to make a commitment of a linear accelerator to the Rays of Hope initiative. This is still, of course, subject to some finalizing on legal and administrative topics, but I think what we are seeing here, hopefully, is a real shift from our perspective in recognizing the importance of this initiative. and wanting to see how we can contribute our part in terms of making a difference across the globe. So thank you. Hello.
I think that deserves a round of applause, Kevin. Thank you. And I will say, you know, we value the strategic partnership we have with Siemens Healthineers, with GE Healthcare, hopefully soon with Fujifilm. And again, it's, as we've said today, it really takes a roundtable of a variety of partnerships, a variety of perspectives, thinking about this differently. I really want to thank all of our panelists today and all of you for participating from the audience. I think we've really, you know, touched on some important points about, you know, the value of every euro invested, being honest, thinking about these public-private partnerships, putting the member state first, you know, how can we be there in a supportive role? Partnerships for Hope is really a cross-cutting topic. I really hope that people continue this discussion throughout the rest of the panels this afternoon as well as tomorrow. I think this has given you a glimpse into some conversations you might be wanting to have with our panelists here today. So I hope you'll make yourselves available for those in the audience. And it really is a nice preview to the next panel, which will be on anchor centers, where we're going to learn even more about how we're working on innovative partnerships with centers in regions throughout the world. I want to thank you all again, and I'm just going to ask the panelists to sit here for a moment because I think we're going to take a photograph of all of the panelists, and then we will exit the stage. So please, a round of applause for the panelists.
Okay. Yeah. So it is going very well. Thank you, everyone. Now the next panel will follow. So it is titled as Working Together for Sustainable and Quality Cancer Management with Anchor Center. So there is a presentation by Ms. May Adelwaheb, Director of the Division of Human Health at IAEA, Department of Nuclear Science and Applications. So, and I will give the floor to Ms. May Adelwaheb to invite her panelists to.
Thank you. Our panelists for the next panel, if you could please come up here, and your names are on the nameplate. Yes. Okay. Excellencies, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Abdel Wahab, Director of the Human Health Program at the IAEA. Welcome to our panel. We have exciting panelists and interventions that will be had today. We'll start our session with a short intro on anchor centers for those who are not familiar and Rays of Hope. And then we'll have a short video from a collaborating center as an example. And then after that, we'll introduce our esteemed panel, which we're really lucky to have such a great group of panelists here today with us to tell us all about the anchor centers. And then finally, for a wrap-up, we have our colleague from IEA, who is now a member state colleague, who will be wrapping up for us. So we'll start out with the anchor center presentation. If you could bring up the slides, please. So this is a very short presentation in case some colleagues are not familiar with what's happening in terms of the anchor center specifically. Next, please. So the pillars of Rays of Hope are three, and we've heard a lot about supporting access through setting up centers and training people. The second pillar is to ensure sustainability, and that's through the anchor center work that you will hear about today. And the third pillar is innovation, where we want to do better with what we have, and we want to collect data to assess impact. So those are the three pillars of Rays of Hope. Next, please. Over 90 countries, as you've heard earlier, have asked to be part of Rays of Hope all over the world. Next, please. And this is an example of some of the areas of progress, specifically in Africa, that you've heard of along the way, mainly training and equipment. Next, please. So these are our anchor centers. And these anchor centers have been working with the IEA for decades. They have been training people within the region. Many of them have really helped set up the reality on the ground for the first centers, for example, in a country. And many of them are here today. You'll hear from them directly. Next, please. So what do we mean by an anchor center, and what do we do? As you can see, there are many activities related to anchor centers. And many member states have approached us to say they're interested in anchor centers, but the process is quite detailed in terms of evaluation across the board. And, centers have had to have worked with us for a long time. We have about 12, and GC we'll have 5 more, so quite a few, and they've formed a wonderful network together. Next, please. So these are some examples of the activities that are happening, like missions at the different anchor centers, and you can see here represented. Anchor centers host specific events, and this has already been happening. Next, please. And then the anchor centers are involved in education and training and so forth. So many activities are going on. The next one, we have a training on advanced radiotherapy techniques in the anchor center in Japan, for example, and so forth. Next, please. So this is interesting, and we actually have goggles for those who are interested to see about the virtual reality. We're looking at innovative ways to train, and anchor centers here came to IEA to be able to have experience with this, and will be using this to train people in their own anchor centers. Next, please. And then in terms of impact, how do we know what we're doing is worthwhile? So we have the Global Radiation Medicine Database, the Sunrise Initiative, that is being put together. This is the third pillar that I mentioned. And this will collect extensive data, not only patient data, but also economic data to see, so centers can actually look at their own results and also to look at the health economic status. Next, please. So now we'll hear from a collaborating center, one of our collaborating centers that's supporting the Anchor Center network as well. Dr. Schmeller was not able to be here today. She's Associate Vice President of Global Oncology Division of Cancer Network, University of Texas, MD Anderson. Can we raise the volume, please?
MD Anderson is honored to serve as a collaborating center of the IAEA
All
and to
right,
have
it'll
the
happen soon.
opportunity to work
So
together
until
with all
then,
of you to improve cancer care worldwide.
we
Many
will
of our
run it
MD
off of
Anderson
the
faculty
PowerPoint,
have
right?
proudly contributed as experts in anchor center missions, conducting comprehensive assessments and forming strong collaborations with colleagues at the individual anchor centers.
I still can't
We
hear
are
you.
also pleased to be partnering on the
there's
recently
no sound.
launched research training program, which features monthly lectures and interactive discussions with the goal of building research capacity across the Anchor Center network. It's a privilege for MD Anderson to be part of this dynamic and growing community.
Okay, so maybe we can
Together through the
do
Raise
it near
of
the
Hope
end, if
initiative, we're committed to
allow us,
advancing
and we'll just
sustainable,
move on
high-quality
with the panelists, and then we'll ask our
wish you
colleagues here
all
to
a
work on
productive
the
and
audio.
inspiring forum.
So I have the honor to introduce our panelists today. Dr. Sadaf Tufail Bhoot, radiologist, nuclear medicine physician from Nouri Anchor Center in Pakistan. Mr. Luis Rovira, Vice President of Comisión Nacional de Energía Atómica, SENE. Dr. Amin Lashkar, Institute d'Oncologie, Anchor Center, Morocco. Dr. Mike Sategi, Steve Biko Academic Hospital, Anumeri and Anchor Center, South Africa. Dr. Amin Haboushi, Head of Radiology Department at CHU Babeloud, Anchor Center, Algeria. And Dr. Vedang Murthy, Tata Memorial Anchor Center, India. And Ms. Shivani Tyagi, Head of Government Affairs, Tamir Region, Alexa. So maybe we start with Dr. Bhoot, and we'll say that countries establish and expand their radiation medicine capacities, but quality assurance will be all the more essential. As we move forward, it's not enough to set up centers, but we need to make sure that we set up centers that are of high quality and can provide the care that patients expect. So they need to be treated safely and effectively and given the high quality care they deserve. So can you tell us how the Pakistan Anchor Center is addressing the importance of quality assurance, Dr. Bhoot? Thank you.
Yeah, respected delegates, fellow colleagues, and Ms. May and the team, thank you very much. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for inviting me to this forum, and I feel honored to represent my center, that is Atomic Energy Cancer Hospital, Nouri, at this Rays of Hope forum. And it's a wonderful experience being here in Africa and a wonderful experience being here in African Cancer Center. So the management of Nouri and the management of Pakistan Atomic Energy Commission is committed to provide safe and accurate treatment to the patients and safe and accurate cancer care to the patient. And in the heart of this commitment, there lies the crucial pillar, that is quality assurance. So why quality assurance matters in cancer care is because it's not just a technical process, it's basically a commitment and it's a responsibility. Adherence to QA reduces the errors and it increases patient safety. I'm proud to share that all the processes in Anchor Center Nouri they are under ISO 9001 certification, and we received ISO 9001 2008 certification in 2010. And then we received ISO 9001 2015 certification in 2017. We have a separate quality action team that looks after all the quality processes, and we have representatives from each department in that quality action team. So we follow internationally recognized standards for quality management and for continuous improvements. At our institute, all the machines, all the radiotherapy equipment, the imaging equipment, all are under regular quality tests. And we have a department, medical physics department, that look after all the regular QCs of the equipment. And we also have paperless environment, and we have all the QC tests and the audits available to all the concerned people. All the record is retrievable. So that is to ensure the transparency in QC. All the SOPs, the work instructions, the guidelines, they are available to the workers online, to the relevant staff. And we have the three major departments. The first one is the radiation therapy department, radiation oncology, and the two are the imaging departments, the radiology and the nuclear medicine. We are preparing, Nouri is preparing for IAEA quality audits as well. The radiation oncology department has requested for the Quattro audit of our hospital. And they will be helped by the medical physics department. As of now, soon we will undergo the extensive audit of IAEA, the Quattro audit. As an imaging specialist, I would stress upon the fact that no cancer care can be complete without a good imaging department. So our nuclear medicine department, that is one of the oldest department, also underwent IAEA quality audit, that is Quantum, in 2014. And now we are preparing for a follow-up audit of the Quantum. The radiology department is relatively newer, it's relatively younger, and there we have had the quadrille audit of IAEA. We have had a pre-audit gap analysis done. And we are now in the process to request a full-fledged quadrille audit of our department. Our output is in the form of radiology reports. So we have now started structured reporting so that there is unity in the reports and there is quality in the reports. We also have a clinical clinical review committee in our hospital for peer review of our clinical processes. So the clinical review committee basically generates the review audits, and it proposes review audits, and it's also it is helped by the quality action team as well. Then we have, then we also, all the teaching and training in our hospital, it's also under the same module, the ISO audit. And we have a research and training monitoring cell, RTMC, where all the trainings and the research committee, the research things whichever is going to be started in the hospital, they have to be presented in there, and the board decides whether it can be done, and there is an ethical review board, and all the studies have to be presented before that. So as an ISO certified institute and an IAEA anchor center, we at Nouri are committed for maintaining global standards and leading by example in the quality cancer care. And with shared knowledge and sustained support, we can build a future where precision and equity go hand in hand. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that detailed overview of the QA and QMS and ISO certification audits. All of these things are really important to ensure the quality of what's being provided. But even more important, the fact that the trainees that we've been sending to you are exposed to this, and this becomes the standard that they're used to. So when they go back to their institutions, they know that that's what's needed. So thank you very much. And as you can see, it's quite extensive, the auditing that's been happening and everything else. So we really appreciate you giving the detailed view of this. So now we move to Mr. Rivera and ask about, as a knowledge and capacity building hub, anchor centers play a vital role in closing gaps at the regional and global level. So can you highlight how Argentina's anchor center has been helping to bridge knowledge gaps within Latin America and the Caribbean, especially in terms of pediatric cancer care, which is something that was talked about a lot today because of our new agreement with St. Jude's. But that particular field requires specific expertise and knowledge and training. So please go ahead. Thank you.
Well, thank you. It's an honor to be here with you. I really appreciate the agency to have invited me for this very interesting meeting. I want to really congratulate DG Rafael Marino Grossi for his initiative on Raise for Hope and all the agency staff, which are very passionate in this aspect. And I really think that the world will be a new one with your collaboration in the near future. So I'm really very happy to help on whatever we can on these projects. Our approach in Argentina was kind of strange in the sense that it was the Atomic Energy Commission that the one that started a new era in cancer treatment. It was in '91 that we set up the first PET cyclotron unit in Latin America, in Mendoza. That was in the School of Medicine, Nuclear Medicine, was really very, very interesting, and that gave birth to different centers across the country. We have several other initiatives, which I will go into in a minute. When we speak of Raise of Hope, I think that it means different things to different people. And many times we concentrate on infrastructures, on Linux, but one of the most important things is people. Training people is really absolutely relevant because it takes years and years until you get somebody trained to be able to apply the right techniques at the right moment. And maybe it takes twice as much time than to build a project, just to build a new hospital. So that's something that really we have to bear in mind. That happened with our national authorities, which really have sometimes a hard time understanding the complexity and the work that it does take to really create new professionals. Several different centers that were born along the times had their own programs for teaching medical physicists, doctors, nuclear physicians, etc. We tried with the impulse of the Raise for Hope project to kind of standardize that, and we have not gotten there yet. We are working in different projects, different programs. Like, for example, we put into place the clinical medical physics program, which is a 2-year program after master's in medical physics, which will provide, we understand, a sound background for different people in medical physics in different parts of the country, because we are going to have several practicing units, and one of them specifically will be the pediatric hospital, Garraham, which is the largest one in Argentina, and I think it's also one of the largest ones in Latin America. It treats on its own 60% of the radiotherapy, the oncological patients in pediatrics. And that's really something that we try to incorporate into the Anchor Center network, which has requested the Atomic Energy Commission to establish in Argentina. Atomic Energy Commission created 7 new centers with Linux, brachytherapy, PET, PET-MRs, SPECT-CTs, etc., but also incorporated the Garraham Hospital, this is hospital, pediatric hospital, which was not part of our network, but we did incorporate them, and we are now replacing one of their Linux with an Electa Evo and a new planning tomography unit. So hopefully by the end of the year, that will be in place. Also, we signed an agreement for them, for their physicists, to be part of our training program, the specialty with Instituto Balseiro in Bariloche also. So we are really happy that was really produced. We bought also full dosimetry equipment so that they can train the students very well. The Atomic Energy Commission just turned 75 years last month. It's really something very, very interesting from our point of view. We have had several reactors being operated in Argentina, exported, and we are kind of very strong in radioisotope production. We have several institutes created with universities, which are now part of the Anchor Center infrastructure. We have created a new proton therapy center as well, which will be connected. Unfortunately, in the old times, I mean 10 years ago when this started, surprisingly enough, the pediatric hospital was not part of this initiative. We are trying to revert the agreement so that they are part of the agreement for the operation of this radiotherapy, this proton therapy center, which has 2 gantries for treatment and 1 station for research and development activities. So hopefully we can, of course, the kids will have access to that, but I mean, just they should be part of the administration and philosophy, let's say, of the center. So hopefully we can turn around that. That center also has a CyberKnife and a Versa Linac with resonant and double energy CT to plan the treatments. Other initiatives that we are conveying in this big plan is the construction of a new reactor, which will become critical by the middle of next year. It will be a 30-megawatt reactor, probably one of the most advanced in the world, to replace the RA3 reactor that has been working for 60 years now, almost 60 years. And the idea is that we can have an extra quite a bit more production iodine and molybdenum for diagnosis and treatment. And we also have several positions to irradiate lutetium. So to produce lutetium, we irradiate yttrium, of course. The idea is that by the end of next year, we will be able to produce some quantities of these other radioisotopes. We also have set up lots of radiobiology and preclinical labs for metabolic therapies using lutetium and actinium. By the end of the year, a workshop led by the agency will take place in Buenos Aires for actinium. And that's with the collaboration from Germany that will be sending the samples. Thank you for that. This network, which is, we have a very big country with a little population. We have 5,000 kilometers from north to south, but We are only 45 million people. So the distribution is quite, it's very concentrated in Buenos Aires, but the rest of the country is kind of empty. So we put several of these centers across the country so that people could have local access to treatment on one side, and on the other side, we can train local people, because it's really a problem to migrate people from one region to the other one. It's really very difficult from the logistic point of view, and that never works very well. So we are trying to establish these programs, university programs in each these centers, so that we can recruit local people for that. We have trained several countries, in people from different countries in Latin America, and I should say that we have trained people, 3 teams from Bolivia for the centers that Argentina built in La Paz and Santa Cruz. And we are also training some people from Chile, and we have treated patients we are treating patients from Chile in Bariloche because there was a very high shortage of Linux in the region, so we are collaborating with them. Let me say that Latin America has really very, in the average, let's say, it has really good or reasonably good capacities, but they are not evenly distributed. We have some cities, some countries, let's say Chile, Brazil, Peru, Uruguay, Argentina, Mexico, even Colombia. They do have a nice infrastructure in some centers, but when you divide it by the total population, it's short from desired. But anyway, we have, I think, the key elements so that we can grow from there. And regarding sustainability, one of the things is, of course, keeping good care of all the quality issues. As my former colleague mentioned, that's absolutely essential. Starting with the agency audits, we have passed Quantum. We are requesting now a Quattro audit for the beginning of next year. But there is a trick in that at least we see in our country, that the government really uses quite a bit of money for setting up all this infrastructure. Like, for example, everything I have mentioned is about, in our country, $1,200 million in the last 10 years. So it's really quite a bit of money. And the government itself, thinks that as they have put that money into the system, all the costs for each treatment, has to be almost free. So, you are shooting on your foot because, in 5 years' time, your equipment will be old and then you will be back in zero again. So, that's one of the issues on the 1,000 issues regarding sustainability that at least we are seeing in our region. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much. And bringing up the importance of training people and how difficult it is in terms of time and cost is really important to recognize, of course. And also the bringing people together and making sure that support in all areas, including pediatrics, as you said, for Garahan, it's an excellent center, has trained many of our people, is important to be able to support the whole region. So thank you for that input. So now we go and think about across the oncological armamentarium, research is extremely important. However, sometimes there's not enough research to correspond to specificities and context of certain countries. So examples include clinical trials showing that how we can spare resources, for example, implementation studies showing how we implement technologies to do better, and also studies exploring how AI could make the process more efficient. All of these are very helpful. So Dr. Lashkar, how can you share with us how the Anchor Center in Morocco is helping advance research with others?
Thank you for the invitation and the organization. And it is a very important question, as research is one of the key priorities of the National Institute of Oncology in Rabat, Morocco. So our institute is a dedicated cancer center focused in treating patients, educating, and research. So we treat patients and we make research in radiotherapy, medical physics, medical oncology, radiology, and nuclear medicine. And our designation in 2023 as Onco Center underscore our commitment to improve cancer care across the continent by promoting exchange of knowledge and best practice. And this goes by promoting research in oncology. And since 2006, INO has been honored to collaborate with the IEEA in several randomized phase 3 trial and prospective studies in cervical, nasopharyngeal, and breast cancer. And results were published in a major clinical oncology journal. Our research priorities are directed toward development of context-specific innovation, cost-effective studies, and creation of cancer guidelines. Indeed, a context-adapted guidelines for the management of nasopharyngeal cancer is being submitted for publication. So our goal is to address the gap between clinical condition in phase 3 trials and real-world clinical condition. Thus, adapting local evidence to our reality in Africa. In alignment with this approach, we welcome the opportunity to form partnership to develop regional guidelines adapted to disease profile and resources reality in our continent. Also, at INO, research is a part of training for professionals from member states. And currently, our institute is hosting 6 resident physicians in radiotherapy from Burkina Faso and Djibouti, and 3 medical physicists from Burkina Faso and Rwanda. And we are proud that this year, the work of our residents and fellows has yielded 19 abstracts and 2 oral presentations in the last Congress of the ISTRO, the European Society for Radiotherapy and Oncology, and also 18 abstracts with 2 oral presentations in the ICARO 4 organized by the agency at the beginning of this month. And thanks to the IEEA pivotal role, INO has established international collaboration with esteemed centers like the EMB Anderson Cancer Center. And we are proud to be part of the ongoing cancer process contouring project that aim to develop artificial intelligence solution to contour prostate in radiotherapy. So in closing, we are deeply grateful to the agency for its support and leadership in advancing cancer research in our region, and we stand ready to contribute with other centers in future studies. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that overview. And I think the fact that you had the people that were trained, the IA fellows, present so much research at international meetings indicates how the training for the next pool of researchers is happening at the same time. So thank you very much for letting us know about that. But also the other factor is guidelines, and how guidelines have to be based on science to have context-specific guidelines. What works one place might not work in another, and this is really great. So thank you very much. So in sticking to the topic on research for a moment, we know that we have many global databases that have helped us, like the IA's DIRAC database and NUMDAB. and others unlock novel insights, especially at the policy level. So now, Dr. Sategi, can you touch a bit on this through the experience of South Africa's Anchor Center, especially within the context of Sunrise?
Thank you so kindly, Prof. Abdul Wahab, and also one must just thank Donald Razuk and DG Grossi for this opportunity. I would like to thank you for this insightful question. As you know that DIRAC, Imagine, and NodeMap, as well as the doubly labeled database, have provided insightful ways and pivotal roles in evidence policies. So these examples have made us to actually determine how do we get resources for radiotherapy, how do we really ration the theranostics, and then where is it needed? And then, of course, for making sure that related malnutrition as well as metabolic needs are catered for. So, and this can be better done then with anchor centers. Hence, we are here. And for that, going forward, it's important that the IAEA Sustainable Unified Network for Radiation Medicine and Scientific Excellence, Sunrise, it's a great example of what we have to adopt, because it is going to bring us together as radiation medicine to target all the levels of healthcare, from prevention, early detection, treatment, and palliation. But us, as an anchor center in South Africa, we have a first-hand experience of realizing the structured data collection and analysis. We have put together a multi-center study from low and high middle-income countries, and with regards to prostate cancer, how effective it can be using targeted alpha therapy. This led to a milestone publication in Lancet Oncology, but it also had helped to unlock the supply of targeted alpha therapies globally. So that's one of the things that a structured data collection can do. But further on, it also is bringing together the skill of bringing dosimetry in targeted alpha therapy to be really realized. Of course, it also allows us to train fellows that goes on to be leaders elsewhere, and then to get into the practice and training of targeted therapies generally. We are fortunate as this anchor center, and then would want to invite other colleagues that we also are partnering with Nexa and Itemba Labs, who are producers of isotopes, and this is great that we do have that opportunity. So regarding some of the other examples, such as breast cancer, lung cancer, colorectal cancer, Numera as an anchor center has done first-in-men studies with first-in-class pharmaceuticals. So these breakthroughs are important because they make us to be a global community, and that can also bring in the heterogeneous data that will be there that can help, therefore, to resolve, resistance that we do have in cancer case. So all of us as anchor centers should therefore participate in such. We also have had an impactful results in collaboration of nutrition care, nutrition assessment using anthropometry, biochem, and of course dietary assessment. This helps in bringing down the toxicities and being better effective in therapy. So we are sure that we are demonstrating that collaborations are important, but this meeting then calls upon those that are donors and other philanthropists that they should co-create novel approaches of cancer care with us. They should co-invest with structures like Numeri. And then, of course, whilst radiation oncology in our place continue to demonstrate novel approaches in hyperfractionations. So with this, we are saying that Sunrise will continue from where there is excellence to enhance outcomes and promote excellence in radiation medicine worldwide. What's important is that, of course, what we are doing needs to be scalable. And then to be scalable, of course, it's obviously, it means data has to be there. And then we'll then identify the gaps that are there in research, service delivery, and the HR, of course. So in closing, this global databases, including what we will achieve with Sunrise, is that we're not just having repositories. They are there as instruments for researchers to make sure that they are going to benefit in multi-center studies, comparative analysis, and then they are there for clinicians to realize that they can have evidence-based protocol, care delivery, and ultimately better outcomes for patients using radiotheranostics, radiation oncology, and nutrition. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, and kind of linking research and databases with outcomes and comparative analysis. And also, of course, policy. Some of the Commission's report helped and was one of the various things that was an impetus for a World Health Assembly imaging resolution, which we're really excited about. Thank you very much for that. So we now turn to other pressing global challenges in cancer care. We know that from the Commission on Radiotherapy and Theranostics, the global radiation medicine workforce of 2022 has to expand by over 60% to meet the cancer burden of 2050. So, Dr. Habuchi, how has Algeria's Anchor Center helped tackle the human resource challenge in Africa?
Thank you. Thank you, May, for the invitation, and thank you for the question. And it's both an honor and a privilege for me to present Algeria's Anchor Center as a transformative model for addressing Africa's critical human resources challenges in oncology. So we know that Africa bears more than 20% of the global cancer burden, but possesses less than 3% of the world's cancer treatment facilities. And you know that the human resources gap is even more alarming. The Anchor Center, as you said earlier, was established with a clear vision to create sustainable solutions to these challenges through a multi-pillar approach, which one of them is education and training. So, May, if I want to answer your questions, I may just remember an Algerian experience. In 2010, we had just 6 oncology centers for 40 million people. And patients have to wait an average of 18 months for treatment. So our prescription for change had 3 key ingredients: infrastructure. So we built 12 new centers, expertise and sustainability through creating and integrating training pipeline from university programs to technician, physician, and doctors certifications. So the results now are we have 200% more treatment machines, moving from 14 to more than 42 Linux, a waiting time slashed from 18 months to less than 3 weeks, and more than 90% of the patients are now treated regionally. So the Anchor Center's participation in the Rays of Hope initiative allows us to share lessons learned and support capacity building efforts throughout the regions. So Algeria has established a comprehensive capacity building program through our consulting, offering different kinds of educational opportunities, ranging from long-term fellowship to intensive short-term workshops. So we have a radiotherapy program combining hands-on experience with diverse radiation therapy platforms alongside rigorous academic instruction at the university level. Culminating in a nationally recognized diploma equivalent to those awarded to Algerian graduates. We have a nuclear medicine and the radiotherapy department who has proudly trained more than 20 international physicians over these 5 past years, including participants from different countries: Chad, Niger, Cote d'Ivoire, Benin, Rwanda, Uganda, and Zimbabwe, with several doctors currently benefiting from the Rays of Hope initiative. So these fellows enjoy full access of state-of-the-art facilities at both the new Algiers Medical Science University and university hospitals, and are being graduating among the Algerian specialists annually. So complementing to these formal programs, we regularly host specialized workshops, including technical training for physicists and technicians. And we have done one under Professor Amimour's guidance, and the technical cooperation fellowship in radiation oncology under Professor O'Creeff Granton. Just a word for perspective. So we wish to expand our educational offering beyond the current residency programs by introducing specialized short-term training opportunities, such as simulation-based workshop on interventional radiology technique, specialized training modules, targeted practical courses for technician staff, and advanced fellowship programs for medical physicists. In conclusion, our vision extends beyond training individuals to transforming entire healthcare ecosystem. The Anchor Center stands ready to deepen its collaboration with IAEA and African nations to turn promise of hope into reality for every African facing cancer. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Habuchi. And I can vouch for that in the visit to the center. I found like 5 or 6 different country representatives there being trained at the same time. So really, it's a great network. So now, Dr. Murphy. So can you share how India's Anchor Center has helped train radiation medicine specialists, both within your region and beyond? And guys, 5 minutes.
Thank you, Dr. Abdel Wahab. I sit here on the shoulder of some giants from my institution. And believe it or not, we've been associated with the agency for 4.5 decades now. So that's a long experience, although I have only 5 minutes, so I cannot tell everything. And I'm here to talk about training, which actually, if you note, since morning, almost every speaker has spoken about the need for training for capacity building. So let me start with two interesting statistics. One is known to everyone, and it's even in the standing and in the brochure, that more than half of the world's population does not have access to radiotherapy. It cannot be said enough. And more than 30 countries, according to the Lancet Commission, do not even have any radiotherapy. So, and the other one is about my hospital. So Tata Memorial Center is now, it's a publicly funded hospital under the Department of Atomic Energy of India. And we are now a conglomerate of 9 public hospitals across the country. And you'll be surprised to know that we see about 130 to 140,000 new patients a year, cancer patients here. This constitutes about 10% of India's entire cancer burden. So that, and we work in the form of a hub and spoke model, where the main center helps the smaller centers with infrastructure, training, manpower, resources, etc. And those smaller centers grow and become hubs themselves and help other smaller centers to grow. So that's been a reasonably successful model. And this scale and these numbers puts us at a very unique position to leverage this to help others as an anchor center. And I'll show you some examples or share some examples of what we have done. Now, one way has been, obviously we've been involved in research and education and many CRPs, but one of the things has been to develop manpower and human resource. So even if a funder comes forward and says we are going to donate a linear accelerator costing millions of dollars to a new center who may not be able to take up all the responsibilities, often without trained manpower, that goal of making, we were talking in the last panel, 1 + 1 as 3, often turns up becoming 1 + 1 as 0, because centers cannot take this forward because these are complex equipments, and all of you know this. So anchor centers like ours and others can fill this gap effectively by hand-holding these smaller centers or new centers, not only in India, but around the world. So let me give some context regarding training. I'm saying we have a very robust training program, and we have been blessed with reasonable infrastructure and manpower. At any given time in our department in radiation oncology, there are about 100 trainees of our own undergoing training. So that's a lot of people that we train. We have had more than 60 to 80 fellows and visitors from IAEA and WHO visit us over the years, and they have had hands-on training in so many advanced areas of radiotherapy and nuclear medicine, brachytherapy, running the machines, the practical stuff. We also hold a very interesting event in our institution every year. It's called the Radiotherapy Practicum. We invite a group of oncologists, medical physicists, and technologists to come together and train as a team rather than as individuals. And that has also been very successful, and I must acknowledge here that the vendors of the radiotherapy machines have been very helpful in many of these in providing the systems, and we sit and teach them how to contour and do all these things very practically. You may also have heard of an entity called the National Cancer Grid. This has been led by Tata Memorial Center over the last several years. It is a platform that comprises of more than 370 hospitals in India, including patient support groups and NGOs, who receive training about the latest oncological management, and we do many activities together. So that's a big platform. And this was also recently launched in the Southeast Asian region called the SEA grid, C grid. So a lot of Southeast Asia is also part of the grid now. And this was launched as a global effort in 2019, just before COVID, as part of the NCG Vishwam project. Now, part of this platform has been to, and my colleague was telling about locally relevant guidelines and management guidelines. We've also done that nationally. And very interestingly, we have divided the guidelines into two aspects: what is essential and what is optimal. So funders and insurance companies and governments who are funding these treatments know that this is what should be essential and this is what should be for the more advanced treatments. As part of training many of the oncologists around the world, and in India, we have been part of the virtual tumor boards. For those who may not know, these are platforms where oncologists can present their complicated and complex and difficult cases. Who do they ask? There's a whole group of experts that are available. They can guide the oncologist from different parts of the world and this has directly affected many patients' lives, I'm sure about it. One of our other strengths is cancer epidemiology. We have a very large epidemiology center in our hospital, Center for Cancer Epidemiology, and they've helped in setting up many registries in the country and national registry, and training these people to collect data accurately and enter it accurately and made the systems for cancer registries. So, and this has been also done for some of the other member states of IAEA and others. And because without real data, governments really cannot plan their cancer control programs. Finally, I would like to speak about one particular initiative, and my friend here spoke about, research and protocol development. So we run a course called Credo. It's every year in Mumbai, where young oncologists are invited to and trained to develop meaningful trials and protocols, methodology of protocols, and about things that can bring down the costs. Those are the focus, like repurposing drugs, using very short fractionations of radiotherapy, which are effective and safe and resource sparing. And also very interesting, we are using very low dose of immunotherapy rather than the full dose. That has been a very important part of what we do. So such protocols are encouraged about nutrition, about quality of life, which makes, I think, a big difference it will make in the long run. So I'm very happy to share that IAEA has funded several candidates from Africa in the last 2 years to visit this particular course and benefit from it. So as I have tried to show you, there are obviously, we've taken some steps, but obviously there's so much more to do, and we'd be happy to share our experience with any member states as required. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for that intervention, and many of the novel approaches, whether Credo, which I was involved in myself in teaching, or the grid, or other ways to really, move the field forward and reach out to more people. So thank you very much for that intervention and for bringing up our colleagues in industry. So with that, we'll go to Ms. Shivani Tyagi, Head of Government Affairs, Timia Region, Electa. And well, we know the heart of Rays of Hope is the long-term commitment to advancing cancer care, right? We hope for sustainability, but we cannot tackle these challenges alone, right? And we hope that, now Electa has been working with the IEA, and we appreciate that, and its Rays of Hope to transform collaboration to change and partnership into progress. So could you comment on that and give an example of the collaboration? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Abdul Wahab. First of all, it's an honor for Electa to be part of this panel. As you already know, Electa was the first industry partner to the Rays of Hope initiative, a partnership that we have committed to since 2023. Since then, we've worked extensively with both IEA and the anchor centers to progress this initiative into tangible actions on the ground. And as industry, we have been able to do this by leveraging our expertise, technology, and our extensive network of partners across the globe. I would like to highlight a few such activities and the progress that we have made till date. First of all, education and training. I'm not going to delve too much into it. Everybody has spoken about it, but we all know that skilled workforce or absence of skilled workforce is one of the biggest impediments to expanding access to radiation therapy. To bridge this, Electa has invested in education and training platforms and tools, which we have offered to the anchor centers through the Rays of Hope program. For instance, our anchor center partnership with Morocco National Cancer Center, we have contributed towards deploying treatment planning systems for non-clinical education and training. This would not only benefit the center, but will also help you train any visiting cohorts and conduct any training initiatives that IEA has to offer. We have further added to this to the upskilling initiatives at the center by facilitating peer-to-peer learning through our reputed network of clinical partners, and we are happy to build on this further. We are also in discussions with other anchor centers across the globe. For example, in Asia, we are in discussions to support expansion of brachytherapy education and training. And this is, for cancers that can actually benefit from brachytherapy intervention. Because we believe that, with industry like us, IEA, and anchor centers working together, we can help address any geographical and clinical disparities in radiotherapy training and also in delivery of care for cancer patients. Second, we are working on improving quality of treatment through use of advanced medical analytics platforms that we have. For example, we are looking to deploy a platform that we call Prono that we have to deploy it across different anchor centers, which will provide anchor centers access to tools for assessing quality metrics, improving contouring, and also enable better data management for any clinical training and research that you plan to take in the future. You can also benchmark, the centers can benchmark themselves. They can identify areas of immediate improvement. Thank you. While also, engaging in peer-to-peer learning as well as knowledge sharing sessions. In fact, this tool is already being used through different initiatives which is supported by IEA and has proved extremely valuable for improving treatment planning. Last but not the least, I would also like to highlight our efforts in enhancing collaboration for increasing physical access to care. So outside of the anchor centers, we have supported IEA's laboratory and also jointly supported infrastructure development in Malawi and Niger, something that DG Grossi also mentioned in his speech in the morning. So these countries now have their first linear accelerators, which is really good to know. The direct database is another important area of collaboration that we are working on. And we are also looking, outside of this, we're also looking to develop multilateral partnerships to bring together stakeholders and support innovative procurement and financing models. We recently announced our partnership with MedAccess for improving and providing access to radiotherapy treatment under a fee-per-patient model. And we are looking to build on this further with other partners who would like to explore this further, whether it's governments or, donors, and including, partners like IEA. In the end, I would like to conclude by saying that over the last 2 years, we have had a great collaboration with IEA and our partners in this room, and we are committed to building on this further. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the applications training is a very important part of training, and it's an opportunity, and so many people need it. So the work that's being done is really much appreciated. And we look forward to more activities and more engagement with anchor centers. So I think with that, we'll try one more time for the video, and if we can get sound on that, that would be great. Yeah, correct. Okay, it seems that we're still having some difficulties with sound. And if that's the case, we can share this video at a later time with the participants. But now we can go forward and move to a colleague, a very dear colleague who was a director of TCA Africa at the IAEA. Many of you are familiar with him, and now has moved to the other side as a member state representative. Dr. Excellency Shaukat Abdelaziz, Principal Secretary of Science, Research and Innovation, Office of Cabinet Secretary, Kenya, to close and give some closing remarks. Go ahead, please.
Thank you very much, May, and good afternoon, colleagues, excellencies. Let me, on the onset, take this opportunity to thank everybody who was able to join us in this very interactive session discussing about anchor centers. As you've heard from the Director General of the IAEA, this was a long journey that started here in 2022, and you can see this meeting was actually to take stock of what has transpired between then and now. And a lot has been said this morning, a lot of testimonies have come forward as well. But when you're looking at the areas of diagnosis and treatment of cancer, it's not about providing equipments and machines only. It's also very important to make sure that we can be able to build capacity and capability so that people can be able to use this technology in a safe and secure manner as well for the peaceful users. And I think this is exactly what is happening this afternoon. So to me, sitting from where I am now, I look at IEA with different eyes and appreciate what IEA is doing to its member states. And Anchor Center is one of those I want to call a game changer in the sense that you've had, it's not just about training, it's about bringing research on board, it's about bringing innovation, it's about sharing of ideas and information across the 4 regions that the IEA is working on. It's also about bringing partners, both traditional and untraditional donors and partners as well around the table. One of the things where I'm sitting now, I would like to advocate for is continuation of mentorship and be able to have target training, because now with the technology that we have, such as AI, data-driven sort of approach, we can be able to be even more precise and targeted. And this is a game changer in the sense that even the way we are addressing cancer now is really at molecular level, and we must be able to embrace the technology and innovation. So I see Anchor Center making a pivotal role in that case. I would like also to urge IEA to strengthen the network that you've already built here and be able to even have more sort of anchor centers, because the demand is huge. You heard what the DG said. The IEA started with 7 countries, and now almost, I think, 90+ countries have expressed interest, and it's very important that we build capacity. But also from the member states, we will also want to see policies being put in place so that we can be able to retain the people that have been trained in individual countries or sub-regional as well, and minimize the brain drain and maximize the brain gain. So once again, from my side is really to thank the IAEA for supporting us. I'm now sitting on this side, yeah? The member states for this excellent initiative of the Rays of Hope, and we are looking forward to further support from the agency. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Shaukat. That was really passionate, and coming from both sides, that really, you have a different perspective. And with that, about the Anchor Center network, just we do have a very strong network now, as you can see, in different regions, and with regular training and engagement and interaction between all of the different anchor centers. So you're absolutely right that this is one of the most important aspects that has to come out of this, that all of us support each other across regions, not just within the region. So with that, I asked the panelists to stay 1 second. They're going to take the quick panel picture that you're all used to now. Thank you. And so thank you, Excellencies, colleagues, and friends, for the continued support of Rays of Hope. It's our initiative, all of us, and we have to do it together. We're realizing the goal of equitable cancer care one at a time. And through the anchor centers, which are represented here, and you can see the excellent work that's being done, and the wonderful colleagues that came all the way to give us that information, we continue to work together to turn dialogue into action and challenges into opportunities. And with that, we adjourn and we move to the next panel, which is on financing for care. Lisa, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much. So we are coming to an end of today's in-house session. We left only with the last panel. So as you know, there's always been said that keep the best for the last. So we are going to discuss on financing. Lisa Stevens will moderate the financing session, and after that, we'll finalize our today's session in this house, and we'll continue with our visit. Thank you very much. Over to you, Lisa.
Great. Thank you so much, Lalisa, and thank you to all of you who are here. I would like to invite the panelists up to the front of the room. From the OPEC Fund, we have Olukemi Afun-Ogedan. From MedAccess, we have Mayank Anand. From MedServe, we have Tololupe Adewole. From the Democratic Republic of the Congo, we have Steve Mwanza. From Chad, we have Fatima Hagar. We will have Shaukat Abdul Razak from Kenya. And from Indonesia, we have Supriyanto Pawiro. And as Lalisa mentioned, we will be joining the government for a special cultural tour and banquet afterwards. So we actually had to shorten our panel to 45 minutes to accommodate this. But all of the panelists are aware, and we're going to do our best to still have an interactive and interesting discussion here for the last session of the day. So again, thank you, distinguished ministers, ambassadors, guests. Welcome to this last panel session of this afternoon. It's really my great pleasure to be your moderator this afternoon to talk about financing for care. We've heard about a lot of ideas, and now we need to talk about how we can finance it. We're going to explore success stories and also some challenges in mobilizing resources to strengthen health systems. We're also going to focus on the role of the support from the International Atomic Energy Agency in enabling sustainable improvements to combat cancer. I'm honored to have on stage with me today panelists that bring a unique perspective from government and international finance to those implementing innovative models. The countries represented here today have made impressive progress in mobilizing resources for cancer control, and I look forward to hearing about the key factors that made this possible. So let me first introduce Ms. Olukemi Afun-Ogedan, Country Manager at the Public Sector Operations for the OPEC Fund for International Development. So Kemi, could you please tell us more about OPEC's involvement in supporting low and middle income countries in gaining access to the tools that they need to fight cancer and some of your successes in advancing cancer control?
Thank you very much, Lisa. It's a pleasure being here. Thank you for inviting us. I mean, we're partners, so. So maybe I'll just tell a little bit about the OPEC Fund. So the OPEC Fund, we're a development finance institution. We were set up by OPEC member countries back in 1976. And our mandate really is to provide resources, financial resources for socio-economic and sustainable development in the global south. So our focus, our lens is really a south-to-south cooperation. The health sector has always been a strategic priority for us. Over the years, we have provided over $1.1 billion towards projects in the health sector across Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, Middle East, Asia Pacific, Latin America, and the Caribbean. And even beyond that, in terms of our development finance portfolio, we have provided about $27 billion towards development projects for over 4,000 development projects in 125 countries across 4 continents. So we have a long history of supporting growth and development and innovation in countries, and particularly in the health sector. Prior to the Rays of Hope initiative and partnership with IAEA, we have also been supporting investment in cancer care and technology. And we've done that in Africa specifically. We have done that in Ghana, where we have supported construction and equipping of radiotherapy centers, 3 in Zambia, in Lusaka, in Ndola, and in Livingstone. We have also helped to build the cancer center in Lilongwe in Malawi. So we have been in this space even prior to the Rays of Hope initiative. However, I think we know that our dollar can only go so far, and partnerships are key. We partnered with IAEA because we wanted to find an opportunity to bring our financial resources, but also leverage IAEA's technical expertise and reach across the globe to be able to accelerate investment in cancer care. We're doing this through 2 to 3 primary ways. First of all, of course, is our direct investment, primarily through public sector, where we support actual infrastructure development, so the construction of these dedicated centers. But we can also support creating the enabling environment, policy environment, so that you can incentivize additional private sector investment in this space. And so we do that through either technical assistance for human resource capacity building, but we can also provide policy-based loans specifically for health sector policy changes and, in introduction of new regulation to facilitate investment in this space. And thirdly, most recently, we have started to provide sovereign trade finance to help governments be able to find the short-term financing to be able to help import these equipment, which are often, unique and can be expensive and maybe even are niche. So these are the 3 ways that we are working. And of course, we're grateful for the partnership that we have with IAEA. We have also identified about a dozen countries globally. In Africa, we have identified DRC, we have identified Malawi, Rwanda, I think Niger. There are quite a number of them that we have identified in Africa as our pilot countries to be able to see how we can work together to accelerate cancer investment. So we actually welcome our partner countries to approach us and let us know if you have plans for investments, whether it's on the construction side, whether it's on the infrastructure side, whether it's on the equipment side, whether it's even on the capacity building side, to see how we can collaborate with IAEA and private sector as well to be able to accelerate investment in this space. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Kemi. I think you've given us a lot to think about as we hear from the rest of the panelists, and also to recall the earlier panelists on partnership from both AIIB as well as EIB. So wonderful. So my next speaker, I'm going to turn to Mr. Tololope Adewole, who's the CEO of MedServe, a wholly owned subsidiary of the Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority. So Tololope, could you give us an example of how investment and public-private partnerships successfully strengthened access to radiotherapy?
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so Lisa, thank you so much for the opportunity and for the invitation to be here, and to the honorable ministers, my salutations. Now, the MedServ story is a story of what impact investment is. So MedServ is a wholly owned subsidiary of the Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority, which is the sovereign wealth fund of Nigeria. Prior to 2019, there was only one epileptic linear accelerator in the whole of Nigeria. And it's shocking that we're here and we'll be hearing things, and IAEA had not considered Nigeria before then. Now, in 2019, so the NSIA had to step in, and we built what you call arguably the biggest cancer center in the whole of West Africa. In terms of human capital, in terms of capacity, in terms of patient numbers, and in terms of number of machines. Now, and it cost us about $12.5 million to set that up. And that has been so successful that between then and now, we've actually treated a unique 13,000 patients with good and measurable outcomes. However, the issue still remains the same. There are three things: human capital, infrastructure, and technology. And I think one of the things which we now have to do, now based on the success of that, we're now scaling. So we're actually scaling on a $150 million project, trying to scale to ensure that there is capacity across the 6 geopolitical zones. Mind you, Nigeria is responsible for 50% of the entire population of the West African sub-region. So you can imagine what we are talking about, and having just a few machines. And so we decided to scale. And just middle of last year, the federal government called NSIA again, MedServ, and said, look, partner with us and help us scale across the 6 geopolitical zones. And that is something that is right. And as of today, we've been able to deliver 3 of those new cancer centers, at least in conjunction with Siemens, who who have been our strategic partners. But one thing we've also done, we'll be able to get NSIA has also put down money, about $2 million, again, for capacity building, which was supposed to be matched by USTDA, and we're still on that conversation with USTDA on that. But what we've now done is that we've taken people from the 6 geopolitical zones, and we're training them at the center. And one of the things I hope to be able to achieve at this session and at this meeting is to be able to see how the center can actually partner with IAEA to become an anchor center, but also to be a center for training, because we're talking about a population of 220 million people. How can we partner with IAEA to be able to take it to the next level? I mean, so right now, in Nigeria, there are about now new additional 8 centers, and we are putting up additional 4 + 3, 7 centers in conjunction with the government. So all of these are there, but they need human capital. We could write the check for the rest, but what about training and building the people? And that's why I hope that the collaboration between MedServ, IAEA, Ray of Hope, and I'm glad that sometime last year, Lisa and her team were in Nigeria for an impact assessment. And I'm sure if there's any gap, that will have been it. And so, Lisa, how do we move on to ensure that 200 million people responsible for 50% of the burden of the population in the entire West African sub-region can have an adequate pipeline where there is training, partnering, and then become a center. That is the only center right now today that offers 3D HDR brachytherapy treatment in the whole of that West African sub-region. So I leave that up to you, to IAEA. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Mr. Adewole. So now I'm going to turn to Mayank Adnan, Head of Non-Communicable Diseases and Maternal, Newborn, and Child Health at MedAccess. So MedAccess has a very innovative financial model, and at IAEA, we're very excited about our new partnership that we've just launched with MedAccess. So Mayank, could you tell us about this model and how it could contribute to our shared goal?
Yeah, thank you so much, Lisa, and thank you for the opportunity to MedAccess to speak a bit more. I think before I introduce MedAccess, I think we've referred to the term innovative finance quite a bit throughout the day. So I want to just pause and think about what is innovative finance. Innovative finance refers to a range of tools that can help bridge the gap between the funding that is available and the funding that is actually needed. These could be advanced market commitments, could be guarantees, could be loans. I mean, I think there are a range of instruments that refer to this. So keeping this in mind, MedAccess is a not-for-profit social finance company that was set up by the British International Investments, which is UK government's development finance institution. We were set up in 2017 with $200 million in initial capital. And the objective of MedAccess is to deploy three main types of financial tools to enable suppliers, partner governments, institutional procurers to accelerate access to drugs, diagnostics, medical devices. These could be newer innovations, or this could be a newer way of delivering the same services. The three tools that we provide are, one is what we refer to as volume guarantees. The second we refer to as procurement guarantees, and the third are, of course, more commonly known as the concessional loans. Quickly, in terms of volume guarantee, this is the main tool that MedAccess has deployed, and we've done about 14 such transactions in the last 7 years, ranging across TB, HIV, malaria, and now very recently in cancer and nutrition as well. Volume guarantees are typically a mechanism where it's a legally binding contract between us and a supplier, where on the back of key access terms that we agree with with the supplier, we guarantee minimum sales volumes. This is essentially a mechanism to help de-risk doing business in low and middle income countries. Now, turning quickly to radiotherapy, on consulting several ministries of health, IAEA, and other partners, we discovered that there are two main barriers in really accelerating access to radiation therapy, but also ensuring that they are continuously available. The first, which we of course heard a lot about today, is the financial barrier. Machines are of course expensive, and it can be prohibitive, especially when you have to add more than one machine in a country. And in addition to that, the service and maintenance, and particularly comprehensive service and maintenance, can be either expensive, or often the decision-making to buy service and maintenance can be heavily decentralized even within the government. These challenges are not new to many markets. We've seen the same challenges when it comes to diagnostics, lab services, and back in 2018, MedAccess worked alongside an American company called Hologic in shifting the market towards pay-per-test for viral load testing. And learning from those, and also learning from the challenges that exist in radiation therapy, we're really pleased to announce an exciting new partnership that we've launched with Elekta to potentially deliver pay-per-use based services across two key markets, to begin with Kenya and Tanzania. The idea behind this partnership is to help bundle the machine, the service and maintenance, the software, all together, where on payment of an initial small fee, the payment will be made for every patient treated. To help in de-risking this model, MedAccess would guarantee a minimum number of patients that would be on every successfully placed machine across these two markets to begin with. This model was heavily informed by the IAEA's developed bankable document, because there was a lot of lessons and learnings in terms of the needs and the gaps that really helped us in thinking about how this could be delivered. We believe this is a very powerful model and could be one to really test out. This is one amongst many models that could be useful, but ultimately the adoption still rests on the member state directly. And so we hope to see how this gets adopted in the coming years. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mayank, for describing that so succinctly, and maybe there'll be a chance during the Q&A session to get a little bit more into that. I'd now like to turn to some of the country examples, because as you've heard throughout today and hopefully continuing into tomorrow, this is all about what's happening at the country level. So we'd really like to hear. So I'm first going to turn to Ms. Fatima Hagar, head of the National Cancer Control Program in Chad, to start with examples again from the country's perspective. So Fatima, could you please share with us the enablers you see as key to mobilizing resources, and how you leverage the IAEA-supported bankable document to successfully advocate for parliamentary funding? Thank you, Lisa. Right below this. Oh,
thank you, Lisa. So for a very long time,
cancer was met with silence in Chad. There was no radiotherapy machines, no chemotherapy, and not a single health professional specifically trained in cancer. Families were faced with impossible choices. Sell everything they have so that they can go abroad, or stay in Chad and suffer in silence without care. We knew we couldn't continue like that, but we also understood that real change couldn't come with good intentions alone. We needed a plan, an evidence-based, structured plan that could convince not only health professionals, but also national decision makers. With the support of AIEA, we developed a bankable document, a detailed, costed roadmap focused on building our very first National Cancer Center in Chad. It gave us clarity, it gave us credibility, and more importantly, it gave us a language that government and finance ministers could understand and respond to. And they did. Senior leaders, including our late president, many parliament members, and other high-level authorities rallied behind the vision. The bankable document helped us elevate cancer care from a health sector issue to a national development priority. Just 2 weeks ago, we laid the foundation stone for our very first cancer center, Centre National d'Excellence en Cancérologie, Chad's very first public facility dedicated to cancer care, which will offer radiotherapy, chemo, surgical oncology, pathology lab, and everything that comes along with that. And training under just one roof. For us, this is just not a building, it's a symbol of national will. Yes, it's only the beginning. The walls are not yet up, machines are not yet installed, but we now have a vision, perhaps for the first time, momentum, real political will, real funding, real hope. And we're thinking beyond our borders. Chad is surrounded by 6 countries: Central Africa, Niger, Cameroon, Nigeria, Sudan, and Libya. Some of which don't have cancer centers at all. In many cases, some of the cities that are neighboring Chad are closer to our capital than to their own capitals where the services are concentrated. So maybe this cancer center can also help our neighboring countries. We're building not just a hospital, but a regional lifeline, a place that can offer care, training, dignity to people across Central Africa. This is what partnership makes possible. They didn't just help us write a document. They helped us shape a vision, earn trust, and take first steps towards something that once felt out of reach. Yes, we're not there yet, but we are on our way. And if there's one lesson we can share, it is this. Even in countries where resources are limited and the burden feels overwhelming, progress is possible if political will meets technical clarity. The bankable document gave us the foundation, but it was also our national leadership, strategic planning, messaging, persistent advocacy that turned the foundation into real progress. This is a model that others can adapt in their own way to move from vision to action. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, I agree thank you for encapsulating really rays of hope in that hopeful statement. I'm going to divert a little bit from the agenda that you see before you because I want to reintroduce our former IAEA colleague, Professor Shaukat Abdulrazak, Permanent Secretary, Science, Research and Innovation, Office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary. Because before I have an example from Indonesia, where they're going to talk a little bit about Islamic Development Bank, when Shaukat was with us at IAEA, he did a lot of negotiating with the Islamic Development Bank on behalf of countries in Africa. And I'd like him to bring that example as well as talk a little bit about how he sees his new role in terms of innovation and applying that and engaging under Rays of Hope to support Kenya. So please, Shaukat.
Thank you very much, Lisa. Once again, many thanks for inviting me to share some of the experiences that I had during my tenure at the IAEA. Before I do that, I think it's very important that we bring things into perspective. It is very unfortunate if you look at the development assistance. It's very unfortunate that we are stagnating at 1 to 2% in support of non-communicable diseases, including cancer. When I was at the IEA, I go to several African countries who are eager to see that they can be able to have centers for diagnosis and treatment of cancer, but quite a number of partners were of the opinion that probably that is not a priority for Africa. I'm very glad that the scenario is changing now and there is more willingness in support of this. One very important thing that I've seen is that governments themselves, they're also striving to ensure that they can be able to set up their own centers with the support. But again, this is a very expensive venture, and that's why the public-private partnership is very important, developing partners using the various innovative funding or assistance approach. As you've had, the guarantees and the loans and the grants are very critical. At the agency, just to pick one example, it takes really sometimes a very long process, and I'm very glad that there's a very clear, deliberate effort at the agency where we start with impact review mission, developing national cancer control plans, and bringing a team from a country with the support of the agency to develop what is called a bankable document. Now, after that, then we can be able to go to financial institutions, or agencies as well. Islamic Development Bank is one of those. Now, one of the challenges I found is that most of the time we'll be talking to the ministers of health. Now, the ministers of health is not adequate. From the Islamic Development Bank, you must make sure that you're also speaking to, if it's a member of the bank, to the governor, who is actually domiciled in the Ministry of Finance. And I can tell you, it is not easy, really, to go and be able to do that. Having said all that, a classical example that I can give it to you is Niger. We were able to secure funding for Niger that had a Cobalt 60, and now they have a LINAC that the Director General was also there recently to see that the machine is up and running and able to treat patients in the country. And now we are looking at other countries. You're going to hear about Uzbekistan as a good example. But what I'm trying to say is it requires a lot of negotiations, a lot of back and forth, a lot of understanding. A country that is also coming forward now with the support from the Islamic Development Bank, Lisa, as you already know, is Djibouti. Again, it's taken a while for Djibouti to come through, but I'm glad just before I left the agency to join this, my government, I had already seen all the indications of approval. Comoros is another country. I recall when I was the agency, I spoke to the bank as well, and the bank is also willing to support the hospital that was constructed, but unfortunately, they do not have an oncology center there. So this is one example, and I'm glad that you've heard about other partners speaking and be able to come forward in support of this. This is, again, a game changer. If you look at the agency, I really want to commend the agency. Before it used to be the Technical Cooperation Fund, which is very little, which is very small. Now we are looking at mega projects and partners around the table here. I really want to encourage all of you to support this initiative as well. Where I'm sitting in Kenya, this is exactly what we are doing. We've expanded this space. We have constructed bunkers. We have bunkers in Kenyatta University teaching a research referral hospital. We have bankers in coastal region, bankers in other central regions as well. So you can see through government co-sharing, now we are looking for partners and organizations like the IAEA that will be able to come handy to support us in terms of equipments and in terms of capacity building and training that was discussed earlier. I hope, Lisa, I've been able to pitch in regard to your question. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you so much, Shaukat. And now this is the perfect segue to turn to Supriyanto Prawiro, professor at the University of Indonesia, to provide us another member state example. So, Supri, could you please tell us a bit about how Indonesia has mobilized resources to expand its cancer care infrastructure? And what were the key factors that made partnership possible? And were there any challenges to overcome?
Okay, thank you very much, Lisa, and thank you very much for the invitation. Yeah, Indonesia, I think my minister have the ambitious program. Actually, in 2022, that in Indonesia, only almost 50% out of 34 provinces have the service for the radiotherapy and nuclear medicine. But our minister have the ambitious and want to cover all 34 provinces in 2027. So that's why our minister have the program to build around 39 centers for radiotherapy and almost more than 20 centers for nuclear medicine, and also 500 districts provide service for mammography, and also one center also have the proton therapy in 2027. So this is a very, very big ambitious, and actually that 2023 that our government funding provide for the 16 center for radiotherapy, including for LINAC and also brachytherapy. And for the 2024-2027, that the 23 center will be funded by the Islamic Development Bank, and also the nuclear medicine center, we will buy the 3 cyclotron, 13 PET, and also 39 SPEC. And also for the mammography, more than 200 machines will be distributed to 500 districts in Indonesia. And one funding, I think, FAMED from Austria, that funded for the radiotherapy, nuclear medicine, and also proton therapy center in one military hospital in Jakarta. Actually, that because this very big program, so I think this challenging is the human resources. Because most of the population is stay in Java Island. We have the 17,000 islands, and we have the 5 big islands, so very challenging for us. That most of the people now 60% stay in the Java Islands. So that's why we distribute the people also challenging. So that's why that we need the time and also the funding for to make the human resources. So yeah, for the funding for the human resources, actually currently we build additional one more residency program for radiation oncologists, and this also funded by the government for the education, and also some for the capacity building also funded by the IA project. Funded by the IA project until 2027. And for nuclear medicine, also some support by the IA project, and also for the medical physics, we funded by the government for the radiation oncology medical physics clinical training. But for the nuclear medicine, medical physics training is funded by the IA project through the local clinical training scheme. So we get the funding from the IA to train in our local hospital by our resources. And Indonesia also has the NCC PRID 2024-2034, and this already reviewed by the IA under the IA Impact Review Mission in May 2024, and now already had the report from the IEA. And for the human resources, also we are trying to have the the dialogue project, and Indonesia now has the supporting for the training and also the education and training for the medical physics through the University of Indonesia. And currently we have the two students from Africa, from Zimbabwe. It's funded by the my university project, and also for the Cambodian, funded by the IA and also my university. And actually, Indonesia now is released the new scheme for the project for the human resources, including medical physics, under the Ministry of Finance, and now is undergoing to selection, and will be the Koletias, the Indonesian aid for scholarship for doing medical physics for Africa and also for Southeast Asian countries. So I think this I mentioned that this for what we did, and also some challenging and also some solving problem in Indonesia. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Supri. And you and also Shaukat mentioned the Technical Cooperation Program and the Technical Cooperation Fund. And I think, there are lots of ways to pull partnerships together, and especially with the focus on the increasing human resources that are needed. So our final panelist is Mr. Steve Mwanza from the Democratic Republic of Congo. So, Mr. Mwanza, how has Rays of Hope supported your national efforts in shaping partnerships and securing financing? What were the enablers to mobilize resources, and what were some of the main challenges you had to overcome?
Thank you very much, Lisa, for the invitation. First of all, I would like to recall the situation about cancer in DRC. So as you know, DRC is a very big country. The population is over 1 million inhabitants. And so far, we only have one single LINAC in terms of treatment for the whole country. And most of the places are not equipped for the diagnosis. So it's it's very insufficient for the population. And essentially you have two cases. You have a big economic divide with few people, very few people that have a large amount of money, and most of the population which is extremely poor, especially because over the past decades, the country has known wars, etc. So most of the people cannot pay at all for the treatment, and they just are condemned to die in horrific conditions. So we started in the General Commission of Atomic Energy with a quite successful story, I would say, regarding nuclear medicine. And we started that 28 years ago, and we have our third machine, which was bought in co-sharing with the IAEA, and so we are able to do scintigraphy with this and ERA therapy, and this works well. As you may know, we have a research reactor, but it has been in a long technical shutdown for more than 20 years. So we import all of the radioisotopes that we use for the gamma camera. Now, there was also a long technical project in the technical cooperation regarding the possibility of putting together a center for radiotherapy. And thanks to the IAEA, we pushed that effort up to a bankable document. And this was really the trigger and the key to have a credible estimate of the cost. And so in 2023, we started requesting some money from the public treasury, as it was mentioned by our Minister of Research this morning. Unfortunately, in 2024, none of that was executed, not only for us, it was the same for all the projects in the Ministry of Research. You have to understand that also that the country is in some unrest, even we would say almost at war in the really eastern part. So it's very difficult, and for the war effort, you have cuts every now and then that destabilizes all the projects. So the project that we are working on is especially concentrating on the development of nuclear medicine and radiotherapy. And we have a field on the campus of the University of Kinshasa to build essentially 3 buildings. One for a center for diagnosis, multidisciplinary diagnosis and radiotherapy, a second building for radiopharmacy, and a third one which would be the higher school for training the technicians and engineers of the field. With the Rays of Hope, we have access, thanks to the IAEA and the effort of our president, to donors, like, for example, the OPEC fund. And with this, we are requesting some money to start, arrange the field and start building the first of the 2 buildings that I mentioned. And that's about where we are. All the technical studies are done, etc. All the cost estimates are done, and we are waiting either from the side of the government or these donors to have the means to really start the constructions.
Great. Thank you so much, Steve. I think there have been some excellent examples across all of the panelists today, and I'm really so grateful to all of you for sharing some very heartfelt statements and these firsthand accounts and your perspectives. We've also heard about some of the challenges, and what I'd really like to say is there's still the evening and tomorrow to be able to talk with panelists from today's Financing for Care, the Anchor Center session, the Partnerships for Care, Partnerships for Hope, to really talk about, ideas you might have or things that hadn't occurred to you before these really thoughtful interventions. So I want to give a sincere thank you to all of the panelists from this panel and the previous 2 for the engaging dialogues and for coming here today to really talk about how we together can address sustainable cancer care and really bring to life what Rays of Hope is meant to do. So I hope that, again, taking the advantage of tonight and tomorrow to continue to build collaborations. This was the final session of today. I wish you all a great evening. Thank you for being here with us throughout the day. Tomorrow is going to start with the welcome coffee at 9. That's a little bit earlier than today. And then we'll go into our first session on Rays of Hope in Africa. So again, please join me in thanking our panelists, and then we're going to take a quick photo. But thank you so much. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. So, yeah, it was a very great day. So we won't go through the recaps, but tomorrow we'll start by recapping our today's session. As I have heard from most of you, we had really a very fruitful day. And after this, we will directly go to the National Palace to visit, and also the dinner will be served for all of you at the National Palace. So at the gate, there are buses which are waiting for us. So we'll directly go there. So have a nice evening. See you tomorrow. And the session will begin at 9 in the morning. Thank you very much.
Yeah. You're in Vienna too. Thank you. And I think there was somebody. Yes.